much for joining us. Today, we have a fantastic webinar where we're going to be talking insights that turn into revenue through rich data-driven test designs. And we have Jim Huffman of GrowthHit here to tell us all about how to use data to analyze it and position it into case studies that actually convert. Now, before we get into it, I want to say hello to all of you phoning in today from all over the world. Why don't you let us know where you're calling in from? You can type it in the chat. Today, I'm in cold and snowy, typical Canada. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, the capital. And Jim, you're in Seattle.
That's right. It is cold, not snowy, so I would
Okay.
prefer to have a little snow on the ground.
Yeah. Is it living up to the stereotype of being rainy or just cold?
Just cold today, but who knows? Maybe there's rain in our forecast. There always is.
There you go. So go ahead, audience, and type in the chat where you're calling in from today. We want to make this webinar interactive. We want to keep you engaged. You're welcome to pick Jim's brain. He has so many insights to share with you. And so you're welcome to type in the chat for any questions or comments, and we'll get your juices flowing by letting us know where you're calling in from today. If you could go to the next slide, Jim.
Yeah.
We have a packed agenda, a lot of amazing material to get through today. And what you're going to get is hands-on, tangible advice that you can use and immediately implement to properly run better A/B tests. So after you hear Jim speak today, you're going to have insights and ideas. You'll be brimming with all sorts of exciting ideas that you can apply to your own tests or use GrowthHit to help you test. Jim is going to uncover a framework that addresses specific user pain points, and he's going to show us how GrowthHit applies these to actually create data-driven insights. And you'll get helpful advice on how to come up with test ideas through proven case studies that GrowthHit has run. So lots of exciting things, very practical, very tangible. And in case you are wondering who this illustrious Jim Huffman that I'm talking about, he's the founder of GrowthHit. He started GrowthHit, which is a marketing consulting agency, and now has $250 million in client sales. And if that weren't enough, he's also the CEO of Neat Apparel, which is a sweat-proof shirt brand. Very neat, if I do say so myself. And on top of that, he's a media mogul. He hosts the podcast If I Was Starting Today. He's authored a best-selling guide, The Growth Marketer's Playbook. And in fact, that book dethroned Seth Godin on Amazon. On top of that, he's a sought-after international speaker, a growth leader, trusted by Fortune 500 companies like FedEx and Oreo and Sephora. And best of all, he's with us today sharing his time to tell us how you can get growth for your site. Jim, it's fantastic to have you today. Thank
No,
you so much for joining us.
super fired up to be here and compare notes with you.
Absolutely. And myself, I'm the founder of Guess the Test. I'm a top A/B testing influencer and recognized as a leading woman CRO specialist. Guess the Test is an experimentation resource. It's chock full of A/B test case studies that show you how you can optimize your own site with knowledge and insights run from actual real life A/B tests. And when I'm not doing Guess the Test, I'm running my award-winning agency Convert Experts, where I help clients test and optimize their sites. So I am all about testing, 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 and we are going to talk about it today. I'm so excited to be doing so.
Nice. Well, cool. Deborah, I'm pumped to do this, and it's been fun just comparing notes ahead of this because I think you and I are very much on the same page. So, and thank you all for listening today. So, I don't know about you, but like you look at your dashboard and it's like, the conversion rate's down. Your conversion rate for purchases, your conversion rate for leads, and it's like, what is going on? And so I have good news and I have bad news. So, everyone on this call, we know the bad news. 90% of your visitors do not convert. You know how we throw money at Google Ads, we throw money at Meta and Instagram and TikTok. Unfortunately, 90% of the people that click those and come to the website aren't buying. And usually it's probably 98% or 95%. So that's bad news. So what's the
That
good
is
news?
bad news. That's very bad news.
Yeah.
So for every 100 people, only 10 of them, if we're lucky, are actually going to do something. But you've identified a framework, it has 7 main reasons. Tell us about that.
Exactly. So here's the good news. 90% of people aren't converting. The question is why. And the good news is there's usually no more than 7 reasons that drive the majority of the people that aren't buying, right? Is it price? Like, hey, you're too expensive. Is it quality? Or where they're like, hey, I don't think it's going to deliver like we think it will. Or maybe they're confused. Maybe you're not speaking their language. Another one, and this one hurts my soul, it's urgency. Like, oh, this is cool, but I'm busy, maybe later. It could be competition. Are they doing comparison shopping and you're losing because they're good for this use case or for whatever reason? It could be product where they're unsure on it, or it could be value. Value and price are definitely aligned, but value could be like, I don't think I'm gonna get value out of this. I don't think it's worth what I'm gonna invest. The price is fair, but it isn't of high perceived value to me. So the big question for you is, what of these 7 is the reason why your website isn't converting like it should? Like with your customers, if you had to choose 1 or 2 or 3 of these, what do you think it is? So, what I want to do is help you really understand why your customers don't buy. And so this is something Deborah and I think we're big fans of, but it's like, let's start to ask the right questions. I'm a big fan of don't try and have the answers, but have the better questions. So the questions I have, if I'm looking at your website or even my own website, first, what's happening? So doing like the quantitative analysis. And I think a lot of people listening to this call are already very good at this. You're doing your funnel mapping to see the drop off, looking at your abandonment rate, looking at your conversion rate, understanding that. And this helps you know where you should focus, where you can have the biggest ROI. But to take it a step further, it's asking the why. Okay, why are people dropping off? Why are they not buying? So to understand the why, this is where you have to do something that can be really boring, and that's the research. Research is such a boring word. I've been trying to like rebrand it, and it's not working. But basically, it's like let's do the heat maps, let's do the scroll maps, let's actually do session recordings where we get a bunch of coffee and we sit there and we watch 50 people go through the website, people that convert, people that don't. Let's do surveys, let's do polls, and here's what happens. You will start to overflow with insights. And that's where the gold is. That's where you can get the insights that lead to test ideas. And so, very simple. I'll show this in action. You guys probably have seen this. If I'm doing an exit intent poll using something like Hotjar or other tools, you can be coming in and you're like, okay. And again, these are people that aren't going to buy from you and they're gone. And we're going to say, hey, what if anything prevented you from checking out today? So they enter in here. You want it to be an open form fill so they can give that feedback. And then once you can get over 100 responses, ideally, sometimes you can do it with less, start to categorize their objections. And so, like in this example, it's like price was a huge one. Another one was around wanting more information. So they maybe were a little bit confused. So if those are the 2 insights, it's game on. So the question is, think of what your test idea should be just to address those 2 issues. And so that's what I want to talk about today, getting those insights and then how we address them. But here's the
That sounds
hard
fantastic.
part. Yeah. Um, and so here's the hard part though. You're like, wait, what do I do with those insights? Because even Deborah and I, we've been doing this a bunch. It's like you get these insights and it's like, oh, we do a full landing page overhaul. Or actually, we just changed 2 words on a headline. It could be extreme or not on how you address that. So the goal here is to give you some reps, give you some examples of how to think through turning those insights into test ideas. That way, when you're looking to optimize your website as you go into next year, you can think of different ways you can do it. So let's dive in. Deborah, are you down if we get into some
That sounds
examples?
amazing. And Jim, I want to say what I really love about this approach is that it's based on a structured framework of these 7 key pain points that people have. But it takes it a step further by combining qualitative analysis with quantitative analysis. And I think that's where a lot of experimenters get caught. They really tend to focus typically on the quantitative side. They'll dig into Google Analytics or whatever analytics platform it is, and they'll go all in, but they kind of ignore that other qualitative side. They're not necessarily looking at the heat maps or at the exit polls or whatever it is. And when you can bring the qualitative and quantitative together and synthesize those, that's when you get those really rich insights. Now, the problem is exactly as you said, what do you do with all that data? Because you have a plethora of data, and now you need to sort of filter it through and find the most meaningful things. But it sounds like you've found a really good way to do that. So let's see how you're doing that.
Yeah. And you're totally right. Almost all the clients we have, people are really good at the quantitative, but they're not doing the qualitative. And by the way, it's not your fault. You're busy. You're wearing a bazillion hats. You're trying to get to inbox zero. It's hard to slow down and be like, oh, let me do some polls today when your manager or boss is like, go, 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 go. So
Right.
it's and I'll talk about at the end a hack on how to be good at research. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so let's start with price as a blocker. Maybe you're like, okay, we have price. People think we're too expensive. I have a few examples I want to hit on with that. So we're gonna go to the purse or bag industry. We'll call it fashion. So this is a black leather sash bag from the company Sash Bag, and this is the product page. This is the before shot, and I bet everyone on this call has some good ideas on how to improve this. But let's stop before we throw spaghetti at the wall to optimize it. Let's do some research. And so as we did research, we did a poll. And here's what we started to understand. We did this exit intent poll and we uncovered that, wow, 60% of the people think it's too expensive. They think it's a high price. That's significant. We also saw secondary, people had questions about the material, which also relates to price, also relates to value. And here's the other interesting thing. So here's more context. With this brand, they have a community of 40,000 people. They've sold 250,000 bags. And this isn't coming through this like passionate fan base. So here's the before and here's the after. Here's some things we did to address price. So the first thing was risk reversal, highlighting the 30-day guarantee. Like, hey, you buy this for 200 bucks, 300 bucks. You don't like it, send it back. So that's one way to address price. Again, the other thing is because this company was sitting on so much social proof that was overflowing, we're like, oh my gosh, we got to make this known. So we put, hey, C White, over 250,000 bags have been sold. We put in a testimonial here. One call out with your testimonials, don't just put one because of whatever reason. When I put in a testimonial in a prominent spot like this, I wanted to do one of two things. One, I wanted to heighten the problem it solves, where you're really talking about the magic moment of it. The second thing it could do, it could address the biggest point of friction people have. So if this case is if it's value or quality, I would want a testimonial talking about that. Like, oh, I've had this for 5+ years and it's the most durable thing in my closet or something like that. And then again, wanted it to be overflowing with social proof here. And so this was one experiment we did with them just to address price. And what was exciting was seeing the lift in the purchase conversion rate by 25%, and then the add to cards by 5%. And how we used Convert to do this was we took some of the flagship products, product detail pages, and we're able to add in just static images showing the reviews to really test if this works. And then once it works, it validates the website development team investing and coding this across the website. So Convert allowed us to kind of move quickly in an agile way to test this one.
Okay, that's amazing and really great lift in conversion rates. So congrats on that. In terms of placement of the elements and the formatting of the social proof and that kind of thing, totally understand you're going for minimum viable product. You meant you want to make sure it worked, which seems like a really smart way to do it. How did you decide to put, the testimonials here, the highlight there? What was your rationale and how did you go about that thinking process?
Yeah, yeah, really good question. We wanted to, especially on mobile, we wanted these two things to be where based on the scroll maps, we know people would interact. So we're guaranteed to get something there. And we did like two forms of social proof. One is a stat. The second is text, right? You could also do logos and other things, but those were the two we had. And then down here, because we did see there's a certain persona that wanted more information, we kind of loaded it up here. However, if the objection maybe was around confusion or use case, then we would probably put something different here, showing different ways to use it, maybe getting into the tech specs of it or the engineering of it. But that wasn't necessarily the case. It's a pretty straightforward product that's easy to understand.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Audience, if you have any questions for Jim, now is your chance. We're monitoring both the chat channel and the LinkedIn Live chat channel. So go ahead and jump in with any specific questions. Jim has many examples he's going to walk us through today, but on any specific examples you want to ask more about, feel free to do so. In the chat channel, we just ask that you don't post self-promotional links. This is a safe space for us, and we want to have a good discussion and a spirited discussion, but not a self-promotional discussion. But go ahead, audience, and chime in anytime with questions, and we're looking to you to ask Jim any questions you have. So that was a really interesting example about price, and it seems like one of the ways to advert the concern about prices through social proof. Confusion is another huge one that really limits conversions, Jim.
Yeah.
We often say confused visitors don't convert. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this is one where like you, like when you it's your company, your product, you're so in the weeds. Sometimes it's hard to be like, hey, if a skeptical first-time visitor comes to the website, within 15 seconds, do they know why you're special? If not, they're probably gone. So it's not even just confusion, it's like, do they understand your point of differentiation? So this is the company that we acquired last year called Neat. They make sweat-proof shirts. And here's what like hurt my soul is I'll get into what made it special, the intellectual property behind it, but you come here, the headline says nothing but neat. I have no idea what that means, right? And then we go down here, think windshield wipers for sweat. It's like, okay, but what is this?
Mm,
I'm having to work really hard to understand why this t-shirt is 40 bucks. And so this is something that we really understood that people were confused on like why this is special. And it really lacked any form of social proof, but more importantly, any point of differentiation. Because
mhm,
what makes the shirt special is there's IP, intellectual property, oh, that make the shirts where you don't sweat through to show pit stains, to show back sweat. This IP was acquired from the military. It was initially made for uniforms, and
mhm,
now it's made for t-shirts. So that's a really cool story that you have to go through like 5 pages to find that. And the other like insight that we got is the best performing ad copy hit on those use cases of pit stains and back sweat. So it's like, all right, if I accomplish anything on this homepage within 15 seconds, I want you to not be confused on why this is different.
mm,
So let me show you, and I'll actually go to the actual website. Um, so look what we did at the top. We put, unlike your regular t-shirts, ours hide sweat, no pit stains, no back sweat. See why hundreds are switching. Make the switch. And then look at the headline. Make the switch. Our life-changing sweat-proof shirts are disappearing fast. Upgrade your wardrobe. And then there's more stuff we're doing. And again, we put this here to really show the difference, other shirts versus your shirt,
mm,
because that is mission number one, is
mhm,
not to be confused on this. There's a whole secondary test we did around getting the average order value up. Notice how this merchandise have single products, and now we only push bundles
mm,
because for the business model to work for ads, we had to get the average order value up to $100. So that was a secondary test. But the first test is like remove confusion. So this is a little unfair because it was such a low traffic website and it was starting at a smaller base that like the numbers were like percentage wise look quite insane. But it was because it was starting at a really low point.
mm.
Um, but anyway, hopefully that's a fun one to see. Like, how do we address confusion head on?
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And it's not even confusion as really creating a clear value proposition that makes the differentiating factor stand out and shine. And with the video, it's this instant you're hit by it, you see it automatically, and you go, oh, okay, now I understand
Yeah,
what makes this product so unique and why it's special, why I should be paying $40 for a t-shirt. So in that way, through a value proposition, you're able to clarify the complex and reduce the confusion. So I think a really, really interesting approach. I also see social proof was brought right up to the top there, and you have a clear CTA in the middle that the models are sort of embracing around so that your eye has to go there. So
right.
interesting sort of visual psychology that you used as well.
Yeah, totally. And trying to like subtly do it there, right? Because we're a small brand. It's like, why should we care about them? So when we can hopefully update these numbers soon as we get more people. But yeah, and this is something we'll talk about. Like, I love being able to show rather than tell. So with like the water balloon test here, because if people will give us 15 seconds and see this, like, oh, I get it, I understand it. Because the magic moment is seeing those lines underneath
Hmm.
it where the water or sweat spreads out so it doesn't soak through. And
Hmm.
so, like with people listening, what's your magic moment that shows that point of differentiation so people will never be confused on why you're different? How can you just remove every point of friction to get out of the way of showing them that magic moment? For
Hmm.
us, it's popping water balloons and t-shirts. So what is it? What is it for you? I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Very cool.
To keep on the theme of confusion, because again, this is one where I'm like, it hurts my soul when I see websites be confused with amazing products. Okay. This is Enuade, therapeutic moisture bar. That's 22 bucks. You're like, okay, 22 bucks for a bar of soap. Why? Why would I pay that, right? Well, and so we knew there was confusion. There was a huge drop off. And what they don't know is this was made by a PhD for burn victims. This was made for very specific use cases. People have very sensitive skin, and this bar is perfect for them for that. So we knew price was one, but look, this 20% of people wanted to know about ingredients that's going into this. That is very significant. So a lot of product questions going on here. And then 8% are just confused on which product to pick because it's, again, these people have eczema. These people have funguses. These people have things going on where they're like, please help. And so, with that in mind, okay, let's test. We need to help be prescriptive on when people should use this or why. So here's the before, here's the after, and what we did. First, there was a lot of action on the images, and so we wanted to lean into that. So we even leaned into some of the benefits and some of the like the fact that it's chemical free right here to address that. Another thing with the accordion, we listed out the ingredients and also put in a how to use so we could really start to answer those questions. The other thing to address value or price was showing that it's recommended by physicians as like their top over the counter product and putting doctors in there that recommend it. And then let me even go below the fold before I show the stats on what we did because we also had they had this initially where it showed the description, but as we know all know people don't read, they scan. So how can we change this to make it more scannable, also how to make it more mobile friendly because not everybody has time to read through this. So we did an update that made it a little bit more visual, that way you can scan it and quickly see it. So visually showcasing the ingredients as opposed to just having it be in text.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a 23% lift in revenue and 18% uplift in purchases. And so using Convert, we were able to confirm like, okay, adding these brand building product image tiles in a static way on the core like ad landing pages worked, and then we could scale it across the website.
Hmm.
So anyway, this was kind of a fun one to do because where I get excited, where I go to a page and it's like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing product. They're just not storytelling the right way with their
Right.
website.
Mm. Yeah, that's really interesting and a great uplift as well. So you did a lot of things to this page. You added social proof, you brought out the story, you highlighted the product benefit, you made it scannable and highly visual. What are some of the elements that you think really contributed to that conversion lift? If you were to pull out maybe the top one or two things that you would say absolutely you have to do based on the research, what would that have been for this example?
Yeah, good question. Because a lot of times, and you probably have this too, working with clients, like some people are like, I want to isolate the experiments, understand what really worked. Other people like, I don't care, show me the money, get me the lift. And we
Hmm.
can kind of flex up and down in what they want. And what we do know was a couple things is like the hero section is key because that's where the action was. So that absolutely had an impact. But the other thing was just switching from speaking in features to switching, oh my gosh, speaking in benefits. That was another big one. I think those were the two things that really helped with this one.
Okay, interesting takeaway. So speak in benefits, not just features.
Hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
great. Excellent.
Nice. All right. So let's go to quality and we'll stay on this one with this company. So this one was kind of interesting in that this was another product they had, which was around their ointment. And so as people came to this page, especially on mobile, we saw that like most of the interaction was happening up the page, and they were going through all of the sliders, looking at all the images. There's a video there, trying to get information. They weren't scrolling down at all, but we saw that they're spending a lot of time here. They're engaging with it. So we're like, okay, this is interesting. Why are people not adding to cart even though there's like high engagement, right? So there's clearly something happening there around like the quality of the product. They're not getting what they want. And so what we did is we realized we had to leverage this real estate and the sliders to do the storytelling. So we replaced, like you can kind of see the images here. They're just product shots showing the back of the product with ingredients. We essentially editorialized the first five ones to help tell that story of, okay, here's the product, here's what's in it, here's how to use it, here's the different use cases, and then even like putting in one with like the doctor testimonial, because we had that below the fold, or they had it below the fold, but that's not where people were going. That's not where they were engaging. So we had to bake it into the slider, which was kind of interesting for their mobile traffic. And sorry, I should have Deborah brought up a good point. This is showing the mobile version here. This is the desktop version, but you can kind of imagine all of these are prominent in this kind of hero section right here as you slide through. So something to think about. If you look at your own mobile website, I would really challenge you to do the research to see like how much are people scrolling through this. This might be where the decision is being made, and that's a huge opportunity to address price, to address quality, to address confusion.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have so much great content below the fold, but if people aren't going there, then they're never going to see it. So by bringing it up, you were really able to leverage it. I love the idea of taking the image thumbnails and the images to tell a story, create a narrative about it, and also using images not just to have images themselves, but also with text that explain why the product is so good. You're sort of doing double duty on the images by doing that, and I think it makes it really powerful. And I notice also you added some visual cues so that people are encouraged to click the slider button by,
Oh, that's a
highlighting
great
the
call
arrow
out. Yeah,
and
yeah.
making it more very clear that people can see additional images, which probably helped.
Yeah. No, 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 that's a very good call out. Um, all right, so now we'll go to value. Value and price are very much linked, but value, like price can be like, oh, this is too expensive. Value is like, am I going to get out of this what I want? Or you want them to feel like it's a steal. Like anything that has high perceived value, how do we hype that up? So this is a fun one. This is Turtle. It's a travel pillow. And they're already doing some amazing things on their website with their imagery. But this is not a cheap product. It's $50 for a travel pillow. If you go to any like bookstore, they're selling them for half the price. And so we know that we're going up against that. And they were even talking about like 50% off your second product, wanting to push bundles. And so we had some hunches, but what we saw is like the landing page had really poor scroll depth. Visitors are missing out on some of the key elements of this and some really like funny and like cool things they had below the fold. And so they weren't seeing that. So again, it's like we've got to go where the people are. And this kind of told the story there. So we kind of quickly redesigned it to be like, okay, let's hit them with like an explosion of value at above the fold so it becomes a no-brainer. So here's the updated one we did. So a couple call outs is notice how the first image here isn't even a product shot. It's almost this like ad where we're showcasing, because this is kind of an easy product to get if you're coming in with more context. We're like, okay, here's the use case, people on planes sleeping with this, four people using social proof here. This is another big hack that I really like is it doesn't always make sense, but when you can take the headline of the product on your product detail page and editorialize it. So this one, get the new travel pillow that makes the middle seat feel like first class, right? So kind of having fun with the aspiration of this. And again, they were trying to push bundles here. But so first, we want people to feel like, wow, this thing has superpowers. But the fact that they're giving you a product for free, they're discounting with bundles, we wanted to visually show that and even default to the bundle. So you had to work to go to the other one. Because we also found that people would be buying for their partner as well whenever they're traveling or buying for their family. And
Hmm.
then putting the logos in a prominent way. So you notice we're hitting people with stats, with logos. We've got testimonials down here. And so and then yeah, we have like the FAQ here if people want to address that. And also with these images, we kind of annotated them to highlight some of those key benefits. So again, it's all around value because if they just say, "Oh, it's another travel pillow," we're losing. We have to call out that point of differentiation. But oh yeah, I'll share the results for again any questions on it. But yeah, uplift in add to cart of 23%, lift in purchase of 25%, and revenue of 27% as people started shifting to more of the bundles. And we're also able to segment traffic to this because this page functioned as a really nice ad landing page for Google Ads and for Meta and Instagram.
Yeah, that's great. It's really interesting. As you go through your examples, I'm seeing some themes emerge, and one is definitely social proof, like just placing that social proof so prominently that it can't be ignored. And it's neat that you've taken the what would traditionally be like a product thumbnail image area, and you've turned it into a montage with social proof and pictures that are unignorable that force you to see how the product can be used in different contexts with different people so that you can immediately get that idea, instantly say, okay, now I understand how this pillow can benefit me. And then you continue that as people go down the page with, again, social proof, and you've put in that narrative into the story with visuals and text that show this is how it can be used. And that really helps clarify what the product is. And as you said, create value as well, a differentiating factor for the product itself.
Totally, yeah. Especially these ad landing pages, like doing some storytelling so you land people from that ad to creative on a page that has a nice cohesive story. So yeah, you nailed it. All right, let's go to trust. Trust is a problem, right? It's like I've never heard of your brand. I don't know who you are. Why should I work with you? Is this product even going to work? So this is a supplement company we had for like hair, skin, and nails. And so with my Vita, here's what was actually kind of interesting. Yes, the page looked outdated with little product benefits, but as we looked at the data, people were coming to the website and they were scrolling up and down. A lot of those case studies I showed you, people were skeptical, didn't give you time. They're playing up here. People were actually going up and down multiple times. And so we saw them like going to the FAQs. We saw them like looking at the social proof, but then they're bouncing. And we're like, okay, we believe that there isn't confusion. It's pretty direct in what it is. It's like we're seeing that people are skeptical and they're hesitant. They're not going to other pages to discover things. They're staying there. So something isn't happening. Not getting across the finish line. Um, and so we want to design the P2P to be more benefit focused to kind of really help people get the answers they need. So here's the before and here's the after. So again, first, we saw people working so hard going up and down the page. What if we just gave them what we think they were looking for to answer those core questions or address those points of friction right here in a scannable way? So putting those bullets right here, concise and easy to skim. Again, if people can't trust us, we're putting social proof up here with stats. We've got the logos here. We're doing a risk reversal with a 30-day money back guarantee. But also, if we have the fact that it's like clinically proven, they did this study, this should be very prominent, showing people that, and we know that people will scroll down so that they're gonna see this. And then we put the ingredients and everything here. But this is something that we're like, okay, if we can nail these, this is gonna make people that are getting fatigued going up and down address their questions, earn trust that, hey, I've never heard of this brand, but this looks legit. Oh yeah, and one other thing before I get to the stats, um, with trust below the fold, this is another theme is show, don't tell. So working in some before and afters to let people really see the benefit of working with this, customer reviews, and then like, hey, join over 900,000 people who've made the switch. So there's kind of a lot going on with this, but as you can see, when it's a product page with their flagship product where people are bouncing up and down and they're not getting conversions, it's worth doing these big swing experiments because it could really move the needle, right? So this one was fun because it was a 21% lift in purchases and 23% lift in revenue. So yeah, this was a fun one. Again, another kind of killer ad landing page on Shopify where we use Convert to do the first version of it and then could scale it with other products that were getting high volume of paid traffic.
That's really interesting. If you can go back to the before after comparison, it's interesting to note when I think of trust, I think of trust symbols and like a trust logo or a credit card logo or something like that. But you're saying it can
Yeah.
expand far beyond that. It can be in the form of social proof, it can be in the form of simple, easy, concise bullets, which is the information that people are looking for. And you were able to see they were scouring up and down the page trying to find that and extract it. And just simply by bringing it up to them and serving it to them on a platter and saying, here you go, you're able to establish trust and build credibility with the brand because you're providing them a low friction way to find that information. And then when you add in clinically proven stats and before and after videos, you're really able to hit home with the trust. So it's interesting to think of trust as not just trust seals and badges, but as a whole way of formatting the page to create elements of trust and make it low friction for the user to find the information they're looking for.
Yeah, you hit on even just to zoom. I'll go to the Figma file so you guys can see it better. This was a big one, like clinically proven results showing stats of like, oh wow, this actually like does work. Here are the results. But you're exactly
Mm.
right. There's different ways to try and tell that story. Badges, seals, stats, case studies before and afters. We're like, oh, okay, I feel like this could work for me and the problem that I have.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very cool.
All right, cool. Let's go now to our favorite one, which is obviously confusion. So let me hit on this. So this is a fun one. I'm going to insurance, to the insurance category. And this was a page where I think we could all agree on the left, there's some things that could be improved. Everyone looking at this is like, yeah, I've got some ideas on how to improve selling term life insurance and this is specifically for people in the military that want insurance. So here's what we did though. We wanted to before we just like optimize this, we had questions. And so we ran a poll and we realized most people didn't know if insurance, like if this was right for them. And they were actually confused on what term life insurance even is. And we saw it because people were going up and down on the scroll map and they were going away from this page, going to the About Us, going to like the FAQ. And so we're like, man, we are not addressing their core question here. So this is where we actually even talked. We did a post-conversion survey where after someone does a conversion, you send them a simple Google form, and we ask them, "Why'd you choose us? What almost stopped you from choosing us? Who else did you look at? And then are you satisfied with it?" And with those four questions, we started to get insights, and that's how we started to uncover that. And so. I want to show through. So this was actually two iterations that we did. So the first iteration was this section here because we knew people were confused on like, hey, what is term like and look how direct we are. We literally took the three questions and made those design elements. What is term life insurance? Is term life insurance right for me? And then we started to see people were like, wait, what's this thing universal versus term life? Like, okay, comparison table time. Let's throw it in there. And so sometimes it's that easy. Like this could easily be an FAQ. We made them design elements on the page because it was so crucial to this. So that's addressing confusion. And I want to also be clear, this is below the fold because we saw people were interacting with it. The second, because it's a very considered purchase. The second thing was around, is this right for me? I think it's expensive. It sounds expensive. We could say, hey, protect your family starting at $10 per month. That's a way of saying this is approachable in price. And then the future iteration was, hey, could we actually do an instant calculator to get instant rates? So this was kind of like three tests in one. But the first was addressing confusion, addressing price, and this is more of an activation experiment. Because I don't want to lie and be like, here's the first version we did. This was an iterative approach. But the biggest thing was If people are confused, I can't sell them on anything else. We have to address that step one, and then you can address some of the other ones.
Mhm.
But hopefully this is helpful. But the exciting thing with this company, it allowed them to be able to turn on ads. It allowed them to run a paid go-to-market program to start to get leads and get business.
That's great. Fantastic results. So, addressing confusion is absolutely key. What I'm confused about is how you know the right questions to ask and how you can use the poll data or the survey data to really, really tune into your visitors and get to their pain points. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, whenever you're doing like the exit intent poll and you can get over 100 responses, I do a word chart to see what are the common words or themes that came in that could maybe put me down a good path. Well, for example, that one where we saw 25% of people talked about ingredients, or 30% of people talked about their use case. It's like, okay, our spidey sense is showing we need to lean into that. But candidly, it's getting the post conversion results where you can actually get them to fill out a form, or if you can talk to people, or if you at all have sales involved. Like we love getting sales transcripts from people. Like in this case, when they're getting them on the phone, we basically took sales transcripts from like 50 different salespeople. You put in Chat GPT, what are the common questions? What are the common themes within these? And that starts to let you see, like, wow, everyone's asking them, is it right for me? Everyone's asking about the difference between term life and universal life. Okay, maybe that should be an element we put into this.
Mm.
So those are some things that I would think through deploying. And if you don't have the sales transcripts, however you can bake in those post-conversion surveys to get those questions answered is key.
Okay, yeah, that's really great insight. And I love the idea of using AI technology to synthesize all that data so you don't have to be looking through it yourself. You
Oh
can
my
just
gosh.
pull out the key themes instantly. And then once you have those, you've extracted them, you basically throw it right back at the user and say, okay, here you go. Your questions, your pain points, they're answered right here. They're right in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good or bad, but sometimes I do like having a notice how this page is like a Q&A format, which when it's a considered purchase, I think sometimes it's okay to do that.
Hmm.
So yeah. And then one last thing I wanted to do is it's like, okay, that's interesting, Jim. You're doing these things to get insights, to get your spidey sense going, to see which thing you want to address. But like, how do I create a machine where I'm overflowing with insights? And so I think the tip is super simple. Calendar it out. So at the start of Q1 for next year, ask yourself over the next 12 weeks, what research are we doing, right? So this is what we do. It's like, okay, first week, do we have the right tools? Do we have Convert going? Do we have the right team to do this? And then I'm assigning out like, okay, we're going to do heat maps, scroll maps, session recordings this many times. We're going to do user testing. We're going to do polls and surveys this many times. We'll even do like a competitive content analysis. We're going to do funnel waterfall visuals from our ad funnel, from our organic funnel, 2 times per quarter. That way you make it a non-negotiable. And I'd even be like, okay, funnel visualization will be done at week 3. I put that on the calendar, be like, we're going to review Jim and Deborah presenting that at week 3 and then at week 11. That way the calendar keeps the team accountable, and you don't have to be like, hey, it's April. Should we do a survey? Should we do a poll? If you build it into your calendar, it just becomes a non-negotiable. And here's the thing, like we all have so much pressure on ourselves to be the rainmaker with the brilliant test idea. That's hard. And we're gonna run out of being the rainmaker with our fresh ideas. But if you do this, you will be overflowing with insights and ideas
Yeah.
on different tests you want to run, and you need that firepower. So this is something that we do.
That's a fantastic approach. Very structured, and it means that you don't miss everything. You have a plan, a roadmap right there out in front of you. One question to that is, how do you figure out what to run first, and how do you figure out where to structure it and have built-in redundancy or not? I'm noticing some of them have things over multiple weeks, whereas some of them are just one little slice or one week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as a team, you want to decide, hey, are we in learning mode? It's about like, we just want to learn this quarter, or are you in results mode where it's like, I want to prioritize things that will help us get results. Because if it's learning mode, maybe you're isolating variables. Maybe you're doing more persona specific funnels and tests. If it's results mode, it's very much around like high traffic pages. Where are ads driving people? Let's focus there and do research around those different elements. Um, because like with Neat right now, we're very interested in being like, okay, how do we activate first time purchases, and then how do we reactivate people for second, third, and fourth purchases? So we're testing, do they want new colors? Do they want new styles? Like what do we want? So we're doing surveys and polls around that because we just launched new colors and we're about to do analysis on was that better for reactivation or is that better for new customer acquisition? Because it's going to have a huge impact on our go-to-market strategy and how we do ad creative and how we do landing pages. So just to give an example of how we're thinking about the feedback loop and how that drives what we do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Takanda's wondering how you go about choosing which kind of pain point or of the framework of your seven things that you outlined, which you go about addressing first and which ones you do last, and how you structure and prioritize those to
Yeah,
really hit home first.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so it's like, what's the top blocker of those seven? Price, confusion, value, comparison shopping, urgency. So first, you're gonna have a hunch, which I don't like saying like go with your gut, but you're gonna have a hunch. Don't ignore that. Like when we acquired Need, I was like, oh my gosh, people have to be confused on the point of differentiation. I then want to, like what I did with Need, I talked to 20 customers and then we ran a poll just to kind of get feedback and start to understand it. And then we put heat maps, scroll maps, session recordings on the website. So I'm kind of like building out my pipeline based on my gut and my hunch, and then I'm putting in the data. And then like you could do the ICE framework where it's impact, confidence, and ease, and you score all of your test ideas based on what you want to focus on. That way the numbers drive it. Because we have like a whole Google sheet where we put all of the tests we want to do based on what we want to address. And then we let the numbers drive it. Because every quarter, we're like, what are the biggest conversion roadblocks for our clients? And then we're like, this quarter, we are focused on addressing price or value or confusion. So those are some ways to think about it. It's also fun to have a theme to mobilize the team where it's like the next six experiments, we're addressing value and like how can we do that? Because don't put the pressure on yourself where it's like, okay, we're addressing value. Here's the one test. It has to be the rainmaker. It's like, no, it's going to be an iterative approach. Here's six test ideas to address value. Maybe half of them work, but you only need a couple to get that next result.
Hmm. Okay, that's great advice.
Yeah. Where can we access the recording? Oh, sorry, that was the question. Yeah. Oh, and you already addressed it. Sorry, Deborah. I'm slow to the chats.
Oh, good.
But yeah, and that's kind of the main stuff we have. I mean, I can hit on this, or Deborah, let me know where you'd like to go.
Yeah, well, this was full of really valuable insights. So good that people who are on the recording want a recording of it so that they can go back and listen to it again and again and again. There's so much to unpack in here. So, Jim, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It was really insightful and interesting. And there's a lot of research that goes into it and a lot of thought. And I really like that you're blending not only qualitative, quantitative, but also that spidey sense gut with the data. And you're combining both of those to make really informed and impactful decisions for your clients that you're working with. So thank you for sharing it with us. If people want to get a hold of you and learn more, how can they do so?
Yeah, I'm just Jim at growthhit.com. Hit me up. I'm active on LinkedIn sharing what we're doing and yeah, just growthhit.com. I'm around. I'm in email way too much, so I'll probably respond fast. It's not healthy.
Okay, fantastic. And if people want to take advantage of your services and what you're doing, I hear you have a special offer for us.
Absolutely, right? You gotta throw in a conversion offer for a conversion talk. So yeah, if you want help to figure out like, hey, where do we have conversion roadblocks? How could we, get a lift and unblock conversion? Happy to help. We can do a serial audit where we will look through those core areas of the funnel and we'll give the specific like tactical recommendations of what to do. And we'll even throw in a bonus landing page, kind of like some of the ones I showed today. And normally that's probably like 5,000 bucks. We'll do it for $2,500. So yeah, hopefully that could be helpful. We're all about helping people that have really amazing products and services, showcase that the right way so they can unblock conversions and grow and scale. So yeah, if you want to see our audit and a landing page that can hopefully help lift conversions, yeah, happy to help.
Okay, that's great. And they just contact you directly to take
Yeah.
advantage of that? Okay,
Yeah, just
fantastic.
hit me up, Jim at GrowthHit.com. Be like, Jim, remember you made a promise for this deal for Convert. I'm like, absolutely. So yeah, happy to be true to it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, ask questions, I'm also active on LinkedIn. You can check out Guess the Test and contact me at Deborah@guessthetest.com. I'm always happy to answer questions, go over things that cause confusion and try and clarify them, and talk about Zero. Definitely a passion of mine. And this website was sponsored by Convert. Convert is a testing platform. It's the platform that Jim actually ran many of the tests on for his studies. And Convert's special offer for you today is a free 15-day trial. And to take advantage of it, you simply need to go to Convert.com and sign up for the free trial and get up and running with testing. So we hope you enjoyed this webinar. Thank you so much for being part of it today and for your time. We hope you got value out of it, and now you're armed with lots of great test ideas, and you're going to be merging the qualitative and the quantitative to get really rich data insights and revenue out of your upcoming experiments. Thank you so much, Jim. Really great to have
Yeah.
you today. And a big thanks to the audience as well for attending.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.